It's not how much money you make, but how much money you keep, and how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for, says Robert Kiyosaki. Entrepreneurs ready to make a mark in this world. But how smart and confident are we when it comes to managing our own finances and our wealth management? Are we fully in the know-how of our money matters? Or are we happy delegating it to our better halves or others till we get that wake-up call? Life is unpredictable, and there are some things which are beyond our control. But what can we do to empower ourselves to be future shock-proof and also enjoy better financial independence? Financial independence and taking charge of our financial destiny is not only empowering, but it's fun, and it's also a necessity and hour of the day. Most of us are entrepreneurs and business owners with enough financial cushioning. As educated and well-informed women entrepreneurs, we need to know our personal net worth. We need to know where the family's money is invested, what new investments are being done, and in whose name. Having a will in place, be it from your parents or your better halves, will also protect us from not only financial turbulences, but the emotional trauma and distress that comes with it. Apart from ensuring our financial future, there's always the joy of financial freedom and abundance. As smart, enterprising women, and through smart investments and wealth management, we can contribute substantially to our family's wealth, enjoy bigger shopping budgets, and contribute positively towards the GDP of the nation. Smart financial management also involves a lot of discipline. We go through life thinking there's always a tomorrow to sort out things. For example, we do have our financial papers in order. Do we discuss our family finances and financial planning? Do we speak to our parents, our partners, and understand their financial assets or needs? Let's be proactive and take timely, disciplined action in understanding and practicing wealth management. To help us in the drive, we have our panelists, our navigators, who will help us in moving forward the right path. Mr. Gaurav Mashruwala, he's the founder of Cutting Edge Technology and the author of Yogic Wealth. Mr. Hemant Rustagi, he's the CEO of Wiseinvest Advisors. Mr. Amit Trivedi, he's the founder of Karmyog Knowledge Academy, which imparts business knowledge in investment markets. Mr. Rajiv Bajaj, the Chairman and Managing Director of Bajaj Capital Limited, and our moderators for the session, Mr. Siddharth Zarabi and Ms. Samina Nalwada from Business Television India. Welcome to all of you once again. I believe our session today will enlighten us further on how to invest wisely and manage our wealth more proactively and effectively. On this note, I would invite Mr. K.S. Rao from Birla Sun Life Mutual Funds to just come and speak to us for a few minutes.
Incidentally, we are talking about women and wealth, but women who are wealthy. It is like, teaching someone who is healthy what you need to do on the health. In fact, we reach out to the rural India today, not only we educate women on what they need to do about the wealth, but how they can be ambassadors, they can become wealth advisors, they can become wealth managers. In fact, at Aditya Birla, we have one township near Varanasi, where 10,000 housing colony. We have 3,000 women who are graduates, but yet they are in that town. Unfortunately, they can't do anything else because they are with their husbands. I think today, women, for me, I look at women is something there. When I went to them, I said, you are all there was a CFO who was organizing for the session. I said, he is one CFO, but each of you are the CFOs. What is that? It's the chief family officers. And without you, family cannot run. But how can you become a true CFO? You can become a chief financial officer. Then, today it's like 300 of them have become financial advisors. Means they are the evangelists. I think we all together, I only urge all the sisters around in this room to come forward. This can be a FLO mission. We can go back and make this world a better place. Can all other women graduates who are sitting at home can come back, not only manage their finances better, but they can help somebody to manage the others' finances better. I think that is a mission which Rajiv was talking some time back. We are here. And it's for me, when I came here, FLO, I looked at, it's like, today we are in the world of FLOW, unfortunately. What is that? 25 years back when I was writing civil services from same old Hyderabad 3 times in, I have a story of successful failure. At that time, I used to write India as a savings economy. Maybe 5 years down the line, my son writes the examination and he should write India as a spending economy. And we are becoming a spendthrift rather than the savings. And we spend more than what we earn. That is the situation which is coming in. I think we need to move from that flow to FLO. That FLO for me indicates the first thing we need to get is our financial habits right. I think healthy habits and wealthy habits, Rajiv spoke some time back, and for us whether that financial habits is right, if we can make that F right, it is fantastic. And the second one I can look at L for me is the financial literacy. And that financial literacy comes rightly, I think we can make this world a better place. And the O for me I look at is optimistic outlook, or you can change, whether you should have that optimistic outlook, what can I make the difference? I think let us make the world from flow to flow, and that can become better. I think I'm sure we are going to listen from all the best of the speakers. Today incidentally we have a speakers with a very wonderful name, GHAR, that they make the house, and most of the women are housewives. Gar is Gaurav, Hemant, Amit and Rajiv. And if we can manage your Gar better, and we have another two good anchors around, S and S, that will give success and satisfaction. And the last but not the least, KS, who is organizing knowledge sharing to the world. And wishing you all the good luck. God bless you all. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much.
This is a very delightful moment and occasion, and I thank Kamini Saraf for the leadership that she has shown in organizing this, Ritusha, and all of you who are here from the FICCI Ladies Organization Hyderabad chapter. I just quickly want to tell you for 2 minutes why we are doing this, where has this come from. Of course, FLO chapters across the country have done wonderful shows, and how this partnership came around. Around 6-8 months back, People for Change NGO, not-for-profit, by Smriti Irani. She started it well before her political innings, when she was a famous TV star, actively on television. And this was meant for doing change in society. And many months back, we spoke, we met, she called, and she said, we need to do stuff around women and their wealth. And that's how this brand name came. It was just in a conversation between us that this Women and Wealth brand name took off, and we sort of sealed it at that stage. Very quickly, we'll play out small clips, including from past events of Women and Wealth, and then we'll begin this formal discussion. Let's hear the AV.
She's almost shy about saving for herself. She's almost shy about saying, I want to create wealth for myself. And that is one of the biggest challenges that women face in the country.
जहाँ पे मैं रहती हूँ धारावी में, वहाँ पे मेरी महिला है, लोगों के घर में खाना पकाने जाते हैं, तो उसके लिए कोई सेविंग का कोई आइडिया है या कोई स्कीम है, तो वो मुझे थोड़ा जानकारी चाहिए।
1000 से 1500 रुपए की भी सेविंग है, जिसकी 10 लाख की भी सेविंग है, दोनों को सब सुविधा एक।
Beauty of wealth is that you can lose wealth, but you cannot lose the confidence in your ability to make it back again.
What does empowerment mean to you?
Empowerment for me is freedom to make your own choices, to live your own life on your own terms, whatever those may be.
The idea is to give confidence and input and professional advice, structured and meant only for women.
What does a woman want in life is financial stability for herself and for the entire family.
The fundamental of independence is financial independence. Any woman who is financially independent will always have a say.
For me, wealth would mean security. For me, wealth would mean freedom. It would mean confidence. It would mean empowerment. How can the business news channels play a role in expanding the financial empowerment to the homemakers?
The point taken. This will be on air and we will continue to repeat it, and there will be more programming.
Well, yes, that is women, wealth, financial planning, all that summed into one. But thank you very much, and we are indeed very glad to be associated with this property. As it says, women are homemakers. The job goes beyond just building a family, raising a family. But let's take you through the genesis and the importance of this. And I think most of you would agree with me, right? More often than not, we've seen that a simple housewife, irrespective of what strata of society she comes from, is usually great at running a household or managing finances on a small budget, even if that's what it is. So, simple answer to that is that women make better money managers than men on a small scale. But most importantly, we leave the job of important financial planning to the fathers, to the husbands in our lives. And our jobs are usually limited to planning a monthly budget, getting beyond that, maybe a holiday. Kamini would agree, probably buying some jewelry, maybe a Birkin bag, but I guess mutual funds don't sound as exciting as a bag. But it's extremely important. We've got to remember that financial stability, independence doesn't simply come from accepting the fact that it needs to be done. It's about executing that. Gaurav, we leave this to our husbands, we leave this to our fathers. But I think it's time we take this and take control of the situation. And of course, more than just seeking independence, work towards achieving it.
So, to be honest, being in this profession for about 2.5 decades, when it comes to money management, money intelligence, money education, whatever it is, I don't see any difference between men and women. The only difference is women are honest, men are not. So, women will say we don't understand, and I'm not sure whether they really don't understand or they do, but they are being humble. Men say they understand, but they mess up. So what I've seen is the difference is at some point of time, women need to believe in themselves and accept that this is not a rocket science. In fact, why on earth scriptures would give status of wealth to a woman, to a lady, goddess Lakshmi, and why not to a man? There's a lot of deep thought process behind it. I really don't see a difference between the two. In fact, women nurture family and nurturing wealth is part of it. So I don't think there is any difference. It's just the moment they start accepting that they can manage, they start believing in it, they will. End of the day, if you all are controlling the family budget, which means you are controlling the cash flow. And anybody who understands how to manage cash flow and match that can handle anything else.
Good point there, Gaurav, and I'm going to get Amit and Rajiv and Hemant also to speak on that, quick brief introductory remarks. One of the points, and maybe we'll come to you first, Amit, is that from our previous shows we realized that even as well-groomed and well-established a gathering that we are seeing here, do not know even basic fundamentals. One of the questions that has been repeated at every event is how do I ensure that my family, my husband, has a proper will? The lack of knowledge is immense. So if women have to approach the whole wealth management aspect, how should they go about it?
I think somewhere it's also a lack of interest which leads to lack of knowledge. A lot of times women themselves say, no, that's not my job, you handle it. And that also could be the beginning. If I'm not interested, I'm not going to learn it. But let's understand, statistics prove that women tend to live longer than men. And the data says there are more number of widows above 60 than the number of widowers above 60. So I don't think it's a choice. Sooner you start learning, the better.
I think more often than not, in our culture, in our society, women, when it comes to inheritance, more often than not get the short end of the stick. So I guess, and that's what makes being aware of a will and being part of planning a will very important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would look at two important aspects here. One is that, every investor has to be a saver first. And I think it is a proven fact that women by nature are savers. I think in almost every household, women control the household budget. The only problem I see that they've restricted themselves to that role. They haven't moved beyond that in terms of looking at investments. Look, I strongly believe that there are three important traits that every investor needs to have: patience, perseverance, and discipline. And I think it's again a proven fact that women have each one of them. I think what is clearly required is that over a period of time, whatever knowledge has come has remained restricted scripted. But what we clearly see here is maybe it's by design or by choice. I think many a times it's by choice that women don't feel confident that they can handle it. But I believe that they have all the qualities that are required to handle their finances well are there. It's just that they need to move beyond their limited role and play a larger role today.
Good point there. Rajiv, I want you to sort of summarize the introduction and I want you to focus on a specific point. I don't think women of a certain economic strata even bother with SIPs. So that's an industry term. It's maybe working women who are just starting off in their career who need to look at it. And certainly when we talk about those who already have wealth, maybe inherited or self-made, they are beyond that. But I want you to open with this proposition which I want you to explain. Shouldn't it be read as save, invest and prosper? And how key a role should women have, irrespective of which economic strata they belong to, in saving, investing and ensuring prosperity for their families?
We are going through, in our greater family, a situation, a live situation where one of our relatives has developed over the last 11 months a terminal illness. And his wife is constantly consulting with us and asking us that how should I broach the topic with my husband. That he hasn't done a will, he hasn't done a plan, and while, it's a financially well-endowed family, nothing to worry about, but still, there are other siblings, there are other, issues to be thought of. So I think there's a huge responsibility on men or the main earner in the family to make sure all the finances are properly taken care of, and we must have that depth of relationship that we bring up this topic. And these examples are put on the table. Let me give you an exactly opposite example. A friend of mine who is much younger to me, 35 years of age, he already has a will in place. He already has, he's put my name, in one of the documents that you are one of the, executors of this will, and that each and every detail, which asset I have in India, outside India, what are my financial investments, what is lying where, bank account numbers, each and every detail is written down. Again, an example, I'll quote, I'm a member of Entrepreneurs Organization, and so we are like a brotherhood or sisterhood, which is very, very strong. So one friend of ours in Malaysia, he told us about this concept of black book. He says that not only financial matters, but anything which is consequential, which is bank account number, locker number, or some very, very important critical details, who to go to in case of crisis, in case I'm not there. So I think that black book, he has kept it on top of the cupboard, and he's got an extra copy in case there is fire at home, and the wife knows about it, and they have discussed it. So it is very important that in this fast-paced, fast-moving society, where we are lost in the superficiality of things, we must, as couples, get an opportunity to sit together, talk, and have these very crucial conversations.
How important is that, Gaurav? Don't you agree that while we might talk about it, we also need to execute and be willing to participate, to learn, because this is not just about making an investment, it's about following up, it's about meeting a financial advisor. All those aspects are very important, right?
So I, on my various shows and lectures and all, I always encourage couples to go on financial date. Okay, because every quarter spend at least 2 hours, husband and wife together, evaluating your finances. The moment you start going on these financial dates and spend 2 hours every quarter, I'm talking about 8 hours a year, is when this entire information about money will become a joint responsibility, because then you're discussing your cash flow, your investments, title papers of various assets that you have. But this is very, very critical. Honestly, I feel wives can or women can manage money. It is not a rocket science. So I've also seen instances where it's in the mind where you're saying that, look, we want to stay away. Probably, yes, I agree that that's the way they were kind of groomed, or that's the way they were brought up, where father or brother was kind of handling, but so be it. That doesn't mean it remains like that lifelong. So start taking baby steps if you're uncomfortable. So if you're not writing family budget, that's the first thing, start doing it, number one. Number two, start making cash flows. After that, make a yearly chart. I'm talking about things which are very small, painstaking. We don't enjoy doing that, but there is no alternative. You will have to do all these things. I mean, if you want to make money, you will have to nurture it. There is no shortcut. I mean, it's going to take a lot of time. The moment you start getting into it, yes, there could be arguments, there could be differences, but end of the day, that's what it is. It's not that women don't have intelligence, it's not that they don't understand money, it's that you'll have to push.
Amit, I want you to come in and offer the audience a perspective. See, we are holding this discussion in India, in the context of India, in the context of the economic performance that we have seen over the last 2-3 decades. From your perspective, could you offer a comparison on a global basis, if there is one, of whether Indian women, considering the sort of gender balance and the numbers across our population, are they generally more savers? Is there an example from overseas which can be cited as an aspirational benchmark where women can not only just create wealth, which is entrepreneurship and jobs, but manage wealth more effectively for their families? Because for me, I think the key central point of the message is you're not just spenders, you're not just savers, you're actually responsible for managing the entire household and providing the basis for prosperity for many generations.
I'll just try to look at Indian situation and the global situation and try and connect the two. First of all, Indians per se have been savers for centuries. And within India, women have this tendency to save in gold. Now, there have been a lot of criticism about where the money should be saved, but at least just to take one point from what Hemant had mentioned about the 3 trades, and the third trade that he mentioned was discipline. I think there is a disciplined way of saving money. No, whether the choice of instrument is right or wrong is different, but there is a disciplined way of saving that. That's point number one. And Indian women have exhibited that. Globally, there have been studies. Incidentally, we Indians don't do too much research and data crunching, whereas Western world believes a lot in that. Globally, there are studies which evaluate the investment performance of men versus women, and numerous studies have shown that women typically outperform men by at least 2 to 3 percentage points per year on their investment management skills. I think it's not about whether men make a better financial advisor, investor, or a woman makes a better financial investor or decision maker. It's about partnership. If the hunter and gatherer both come together, I think then 1 + 1 will make more than 2.
Good points there. And before I go to Rajiv and Hemant, I want to just request Kamini to come in. Kamini, 3 questions to you again, which we have asked in the previous ones. Does your family have a will?
I don't think so.
Okay, and we don't need to know more than that. The intention is not to put you on the spot.
My grandfather did, but it was not executed properly because it was not in place.
So that's one point.
Yeah.
The second point I want you to tell us, and because these sessions are also experience sharing sessions, from what you have heard in the last 25-30 minutes, and I don't want you to specify what, of the advice and the points made by this panel, how many can you tick off and say, yes, me and my family is complying, and how many are you not? Just the average, if you can give on a list of 10 items, say.
We're complying by 20% only.
Complying with 20% only. Good point there, and the intention was to put into focus.
It's mostly me, like in the press conference, we were doing the statistics between the gold investment and in mutual funds, and how much the repayment percentage of mutual funds and gold is, it's more than double or maybe 4 times. So I do invest in gold and jewelry, and that's an eye-opener today, the session.
Okay, so Rajiv, there are 2 aspects to this. One is a job-seeking woman, and the other is a job-giver woman. I want you to focus on the job-giver women, or at least women who are part of job-giving families, and take this forward.
Right. Siddharth, I'm glad you asked this question. In Bajaj Capital, we have this initiative, Women Entrepreneurs. And we've been for the last 1 year going around identifying women in business who have built something from a scratch, and we are doing a detailed interview with them, and we are covering it in our in-house publications and are publishing blogs around it. Being a job creator, gives you a certain level of confidence. So, Samina, you've been alluding to this, that sometimes it's about being proactive, and it's not that your partner would be averse to you taking responsibility for family finances, but you have been, shirking it yourself. But when you get into that job creating role, when you're running an enterprise, and it doesn't have to be a commercial enterprise, it can be a social enterprise, it can be a role you're playing in flow right here. So when you step out in the world and you start playing that active role, you start understanding, your worldview changes, and you start looking at, all the issues much closer, which is income tax, dealing with provident fund, and all those detailed. And that's when you realize that how important it is for you to take care of financial security of your factory workers. So let's say you're running, an enterprise around handicrafts, and there are a lot of village women who are associated with you, or somebody like Shehnaz Hussain, who's incidentally somebody we've interviewed for our initiative. So the number of people who are, associated with Shehnaz and her enterprises in her beauty business. So when you are responsible for hundreds and thousands of people, that's when, it hit back at you, that what have I done about my own finances? Coming to another point, what I'd like to say is that we have, in our company started this special unit in Chennai, and we were going to expand it all over India. It is the Mahila branch, where it is only women colleagues. And Gaurav, endorsing your statistics that about 25% of wealth managers in our company are women. And we've done that research that their investment management performance and client management performance is at least 25% better. Women tend to play a very, very strong role, in the business of money management.
That's a very important point. Hemant, I want to come to you, and the point I want to allude to is, look at the policy side also of it. In the last 3 years, and even before, honestly, there have been multiple interventions at the policy level which seem to suggest or try and target women for a certain kind of financial support. But tragically and unfortunately, because it was not founded with the right logic in mind, all of you must be aware that a dedicated bank which was set up only for women, the Bharti Mahila Bank, had to be merged back into the parent from which it was sort of created. It was a budgetary intervention, and just within a few budgets it came back because, it didn't fully fall through. So Hemant, I don't know if you want to speak about the policy aspect of it before you answer, but just to take this point forward, if we have seen 3 generations of business families in this country, and I'm really taking the last 125 years into account. We have seen basically 3 generations of business families. We realize that in the 4th generation, and this is a learning I got from our previous shows, especially the Ahmedabad show, where a lot of women in the audience said, hey, 2 things. I don't want anything to do with my in-laws' husband business. I want to do it separately, and I would rather do a clean business. The larger point being that they don't want to get into traditional infrastructure or businesses where they have to bribe government officials or do any other thing. They would rather do the easier IT related things, startups and a lot of it. Is that something that an audience like this here and those who watch can explore? Is it practical to consider? Your thoughts on that?
Well, Siddharth, we talked about some of the biggest banks being run by women. We have seen some very successful entrepreneurs as women. I think it's proven that they have the capability of doing whatever they want to do if they set their mind to. Okay, so I don't see any reason whether it's any kind of business, like you said, maybe it can be by choice that you don't want to get into certain businesses, and obviously when you're starting, you don't want to start with something which is very complicated. We all know how difficult it is to start some businesses in certain industries. So obviously you want to start with an industry where you feel that there is scope to grow faster, and also it's easier to get going. But I strongly believe that women can manage any kind of business. It's just that we talked about even managing wealth. I just did touch upon the point that they are great savers and they have not become investors because somewhere I think they get intimidated at times, saying that maybe it's a very complicated process. But the fact is that, Amit talked about certain surveys, and it's a truth that most of the surveys internationally done have proved that women are better saver and better investor. So the key issue here is whether that applies to India or not. Yes, I think I mentioned earlier, they have all the qualities which are required. I think it's just that they're not participating in that. It could be either, like I said, could be by design or could be by choice. But I think whether it is starting a business, whether it is managing family's money, I think they have a role to play. And I think it's time, and this is not something which is going to happen overnight. This is a process. Somewhere you need to start. And if you are thinking that, okay, if I start today, tomorrow I'll become an expert, it is not going to happen. Even for people like us who are in the profession, we are still learning. So it's not something that you learn in 1 year or 2 years, but I think somewhere we need to start the process. And once you start enjoying it, because I think it gives you a lot of empowerment in terms of knowing what you can do with the money. So today, if you've given your money to your brother, your husband, your father to manage, and suddenly you see them working so hard, and you don't even know whether the justice is being done to that or not. When you start doing it yourself, you're equally responsible for what happens to your money. So I think it's possible, and I definitely see a change. I've seen that change over a period of time. I definitely see husband and wife insisting that both of us would like to sit together when we are planning our finances, right, which is, I think, a very, very positive development.
Right, so while we've established that women as homemakers are very important in, financial planning or creating that wealth, growing that wealth, I think, Amit, let's start by telling women of what is the core of a financial plan. How do you go about doing this? So while we know it's important, can you help our audience understand where is the starting point? How does one go about making this financial plan?
Eventually, the entire subject of financial planning or personal finance is all about spending money at some day, either today or tomorrow, whether small amounts or large amounts. And women do spend money. Now, if that's the case, how do you get that money, that cash flow, at the time of that expense is to be understood. Now that comes from two sources primarily. One is what we call the human capital, the effort that we put in, salary, business income, etc., etc. And second is the financial capital, which is the investments. These are absolutely basic things. And then comes the subject of how do you manage your investments. Just before getting onto the investments, there is the protection part required, and that's where the insurance comes in. You basically break it down into 4 or 5 different segments, and the subject becomes extremely important and extremely easy to understand. And a couple of points have been mentioned, and we have enormous number of examples of women who have been able to do it simply by following simple steps and simple methods. This is not a difficult subject. It's all about understanding that looking at personal finance is a responsibility, it's a joint responsibility of both the spouses. So that's it.
Gaurav, you might want to come in on this one. So while you've identified your goals, so like Rajiv said, a child's higher education could be one such goal. How important is goal setting as a parameter while you're making a financial plan?
The first step is to make list of responsibilities and dreams for which you want to make money. It's not, I want to live a comfortable life, I want to maintain a lifestyle, I want to send. Trust me, your goals, your requirement, your numbers, your priorities are not the same as your colleagues' numbers, priorities, goals. In fact, in my office, whenever we get a client, we give a sheet of paper and they are married, we insist couple comes. All our couples have to come. We give them a sheet of paper to both of them and we say, make a list. And I've rarely seen an exactly similar list. Now, eventually they have to come to same paper and I say, I accept if there is an argument. The first step that you all will do today when you go back home is, please take a selfie. Anyway, women love to take photographs. Please take a selfie along with your family and write down all the financial goals for which you want to make money. Do that. If you know how to do it digitally, do that. If you can't, take a printout and write it down. Do this activity and going ahead, ensure that any financial transaction that you do in life is towards those goals. It's the simplest way. So if you are spending money, it's for those goals. If you are investing money, it's for those goals. If you are borrowing money, because that's what you need money for. Don't copy others. The problem is that people keep looking at external environment. I'm saying people because I'm saying men and women. So questions that comes to me is, will stock market go up or down? What are your views? What do you think will happen to government? Based on inflation number, what will happen? What will RBI governor do? And I keep telling these people that let's assume a situation where 3 months down the line, a son or daughter is likely to go for higher education. How many of us will tell them, you know something, son, stock market is down. Why don't you delay going abroad? If there is marriage in the family, how many of us will go and tell, market is really doing well. Not only my elder daughter, but even younger daughter get married. Our situations don't change. People spend a lot of time watching union budget. Now here is the situation. Union budgets used to come on 28th of February, now it comes in January. And if we have planned a foreign vacation in the month of April and May, how many of us will cancel the foreign vacation because in the union budget, finance minister increased the service tax, so now GST on international tickets. Our situations don't change based on external conditions. Start looking at your internal conditions. First step, and that's a step I'm giving you, make it a fun activity. Don't do it number driven. Don't make those tables and pie charts and graphs, and it's not fun. Make it fun. Take a selfie. Write down your goals. If you know how to make that a DP, I didn't know what DP meant. I thought DP is depository participant. And my daughter said, Papa, DP is display picture. If you like doing that, do that. But ensure, that's the first step towards deciding financial goals, the easiest step. Number 2, when you start making investments, below each goal, start naming those investments. So I'm just giving an example. If you're doing an SIP, into Birla Equity Fund, don't say I'm doing an SIP into Birla Equity Fund. If your daughter's name is Pooja, say that this is Pooja Higher Education Equity Fund. If you want to go for a vacation, if you're doing a recurring, if you're not, start doing it so that you will have focus. But then don't call it a recurring deposit. Start calling Family Europe Vacation Deposit. The moment you start doing that, the entire family's commitment comes into it. Thereafter, your investments, your financial decisions for your goals. And then the entire situation changes. Do this. This is the first step. And if you keep, and obviously I spoke about going on financial date, which means those goals can change. You need to monitor. But this is the simplest thing. We have done that with all our clients and there are amazing results. Start linking your investments to your goals. The entire financial planning will not be a cumbersome activity. It will be fun.
I want to intervene here and because I'm so enthused by what he said. If any of you, and we are going to put this on air also, if any of you actually take a photograph with your financial goals, I promise you we will show it on air.
Very lastly, before we, take the questions to our audience, Hemant, you might want to come in on this. We've talked about the importance of a will, but most of us would not know how to make a will or how do you get started. So you just want to throw some light on that?
I think first, as you rightly said, I think it's very, very important that there has to be a will in the family. And, whenever we talk about will, it generally is seen as something which is a very, very complicated process. It's a legal process. The fact is making a will is very, very simple. Basically, there are two aspects. One is, as you rightly said, people are a little superstitious about it, that, if we talk about will, I don't know, God knows what is going to happen tomorrow, or something will definitely happen, so why even think about it? But the fact is, life is uncertain. Whatever has to happen will happen. So by making a will, what we are doing is ensuring in our lifetime that we distribute our wealth exactly the way we wanted it to be. Not that someone else is taking a decision on our behalf. And also I think what we have seen is in the absence of any will, the family finances can go in completely disarray. So I think it's very, very important, one, to have a will. And making a will is very, very simple. It's not a very complicated process. You can actually make it even on a piece of paper. And it's not even necessary that you have to go and register it. It has to be witnessed by two people. It's a very, very simple process. I'm sure if you start looking at that aspect, you will realize that why we didn't do it earlier. So I think it's a very, very simple process, not complicated at all.
Fantastic point. And now I know many of you might have questions. I'll request the mics to be had.
Women investors, how do you see them facing loss? I don't know, somehow I feel men are tuned to it. Their business ups and downs, they are brought up in that mode that one day the business will be up and the other day it may be down. But I think women are not prepared for that.
My experience with women investors has been slightly different. We did talk about 3 personal traits, and one of them we said they have more patience. And we also talked about the women are more cautious. Even then when we invest in equities, even if there are losses, and we all know that equity is a long-term investment, it's not an investment which you're making for 1 month or 2 months. Okay, what we have seen is because women have patience, they are not the ones who will change their asset allocation. We have seen that happening with men many a times because they're very aggressive. So today if the markets are doing very well, they will put the money in equity. And tomorrow, if the markets are not doing very well, the money will go from equity into debt, which does not happen in the case of women investors. Most of the cases, I can tell you that, because the fact that they have patience and they understand that this is not something which is invested. And as we earlier mentioned, that if you talk about, investing for a particular goal, you always remember that. It's not going to be like, moving away from that path.
So there's a lot of stigma attached to this thing called prenuptial agreement. It's very, very relevant in abroad. But in India, when you get your daughters married and the divorce rate is going up so high, you invest in a marriage, you put your time, you put your efforts in a marriage, and suddenly you're on the street because there is no prenuptial agreement. You are at the mercy of your husband and you have to take what is agreed or fight it out in court. So what is your take on that? Do we educate people to go in for it, or it's still going to be a stigma in it?
For me, it's not west or east, because scriptures have provided Stridhan and Maher. Both are prenuptial agreements. They exist. Now, are we exploring them fully, or are we just treating them as one more ceremony? Law provides for Married Women Property Act, and there could be insurance policies and a lot of things. So whether it's scriptures, we're talking about Stridhan, Maher, whether we are talking about law, Married Women Property Act, things exist for protection of women. It's just that if it's not being utilized or used, then start using that. But these things exist. scriptures, law, and even otherwise. So it's up to an individual or a family to make use of it. Married Women Property Act is a brilliant act enacted by Government of India, valid within the lines of India.
Okay, I had seen a hand there. Okay, ma'am, you first, please go ahead.
Women look more for security-based returns than risk-based. So I want a clarity is that...
Okay, so the question is, why do women look at security-based versus risk-based, and what's the solution? Can someone want to...
So honestly, ma'am, my experience over 2.5 decades, it's nothing to do with men and women. It's a lot to do with the upbringing, society, and surrounding. If I was doing this event in West Gujarat or Rajasthan, we have had many of them trading, speculating women into stock market, and they do it with ease. When it comes to southern part of, and please don't get into, I wanted to stay away. It's just that how's the surrounding, how's the upbringing. Again, a very personal example, and I should have refrained, but I'm still using it, is our 15-year-old daughter. When she was 11 years old, she came and told me, Papa, I want to invest my money into Indian hotels, hotel which Ratan Tata owns. And I know many such kids. Many such kids. For her, when she was a 4-year-old, I gave her a chocolate bank. And I said, start transparent jar. And I wrote chocolate bank. And I said, beta, whenever, that's the way I was taught. That's the way a lot of my cousin sisters were taught. And said, beta, whenever you get chocolates, put it in, and twice a week you are allowed to eat, which means chocolate eating got disciplined. Whenever she would, second thing, whenever she would put it in, the level will go up. Whenever she'll take it out, the level will come down, and hence saving and investing, we didn't have to. This is all region specific, or this is all more family specific, whether its ability to take risks. Somebody else also mentioned its ability to withstand. It's not particular individual or particular family.
Wonderful. Last question there. Yeah.
This is as per your what you mentioned about the black book. What I didn't realize is I've been doing that for the past 10 years. Wow. There was a time when my best friend was murdered and they were looking for his insurance papers. That's the same day when I came back home, took my husband's insurance papers and all my children, everything. I have everything in folders. If I was to die right now, everything is sorted. I have a list of my jewelry, whatever. What they want to do with it is their problem. It doesn't matter to me when I'm dead. But it's already there. So I think I'm in a very good place. And with regarding to savings, what you mentioned about your daughter, with my daughter, she's 18 years old. The deal I have is whatever you save every month and put in the bank, the same amount I'm going to put in the bank.
Wonderful, wonderful.
There are lots of activities that can be done with kids. The problem that I face, and whether it's a girl child or a male child, is that invariably I have people coming and asking me, what is the right age to expose a child to banking and finance? My standard answer is 1 day prior to taking them to shopping mall.
Good point.
Trust me, till date, no parent has come and asked me, Gaurav, what is the right age to take child to shopping mall? Nobody asks me, which means we are saying that shopping mall में ले जाने से बच्चे नहीं बिगड़ेंगे, bank में ले जाने से बिगड़ेंगे. And that doesn't happen. When I go and talk in schools and colleges, and these are like, some of them are in rural area, and I encourage them to open recurring deposit to even girl child. And I'm saying women or whatever, but it's not a girl child or a boy child or whatever. Encourage them to do 5 rupee or a 10 rupee. In post office, you can have 5 rupee recurring deposit.
Right.
5 rupee, 10 rupee, 100 rupee. Right. The child should be at ease entering a bank as much as the child is at ease entering a mall.
So I'm sorry, we have to end this on this wonderful note, and on behalf of the entire panel here, our respective organizations, I want to thank you for a wonderful and warm discussion. So thank you once again to this fantastic audience for being here today. Thank you.